Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, I'm going to be showcasing what I believe to be one of the most underrated updates in the Season 16 balance patch, and that is the buff to Aerial Ace on PIDGEOT. PIDGEOT currently runs Feather Dance and Brave Bird as its charge moves. Brave Bird, the powerful nuke, Feather Dance does almost no damage, but debuffs the opponent's attack. This makes PIDGEOT really bait dependent. With Aerial Ace, not only is PIDGEOT substantially faster to charge moves, but it's a lot less reliant on correct baiting. I paired it up with a Swampert and a Shadow Drapion, and I was able to climb to nearly 2700 elo. So without further ado, let's hop on the matches, and let's go PIDGEOT. Hopping into the first match, picking up a slightly positive lead Swampert into Gligar, and my opponent is staying in this matchup. I'm going to farm up till just before they make it to the dig and fire off the Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon does not one-shot here, and I have basically no fast move pressure since Mudshot is double resisted. I know I can tank a move here. My opponent is going to fire off the Aerial Ace, and I'm going to return fire with the Hydro Cannon. This Hydro Cannon will be lethal. Opponent is going to commit the shield. As you can see, as this battle goes on, these wing attacks add up quite a bit onto the Swampert. If I do end up conceding switch here, I do want to grab both of my opponent's shields first. So I am going to shield once, fire off the Hydro Cannon, and now that my opponent has shielded, I decide I'm just going to let this go. I'm going to take the shield advantage, and I'm going to send in the Shadow Drapion. I am running Aqua Tail on the Drapion, so it's very quick to charge moves, and I'm able to win the CMP tie over the Gligar. Aqua Tail will easily get the KO onto the Gligar. My opponent is now going to be sending in their Lantern, and that is so good for me. I have the Pidgeot in the back. Pidgeot entirely flying charge moves, so it gets absolutely destroyed by electric types. Crunch connects into the Lantern, and we do see the defense debuff. I need to shield here. I need to get rid of the Lantern. I'm farming up. Opponent goes for a catch onto lickitung, and Pidgeot has found its target. Since Noctowl fell out of the meta, there's been a dramatic increase in Lickitung usage, as Lickitung's hardest counter was basically the Noctowl. So with a lot of Lickitung usage, that means that another normal flying type like Pidgeot can honestly do quite well. And Pidgeot with Aerial Ace does not have to land a Brave Bird. It can consistently just go straight Aerial Ace to win all even shielding scenarios. And with straight Aerial Ace, it also wins all shielding scenarios versus Metacham, regardless of whether it's going straight Ice Punch or if it's going Power Up Punch. I'm able to connect with the Aerial Ace, and now switch timer's up, so the Lantern will be met with the crunch from the Shadow Drapion, and Drapion will make it to the Aqua Tail as well. Aqua Tail taking down the Lantern and securing the win. Speaking of Lickitung, we see it on the lead in the next match. This is a bad matchup for Swampert, so I'll immediately save switch into the Shadow Drapion. While Lickitung still does have a small advantage in this matchup, Drapion at the very least does a lot better than Swampert does, and on top of that, I get a defense drop as well. That's very nice. This means the second crunch will come very close to KOing, so my opponent is going to need to switch out, and they do. They send in Water Gun Lantern, and again, that Drapion save switch, very good at baiting out things that Pidgeot doesn't necessarily want to see. Crunch connects, no debuff this time. This means the Lantern will be able to absorb the second crunch as well and get the farm down. Speaking of farm downs, I'm sending in the Swampert here. I can tank whatever they throw. I'm just going to go for the Mudshot farm down and then trust that with Lantern out of the way, Aerial Ace Pidgeot can do well in the back. Opponent is going to wait their timer here. They're going to be sending back in the Lickitung, immediate switch into the Pidgeot. Their switch timer is not yet up, so they're forced to fire off the Body Slam. Body Slam connects into the Pidgeot in the back. It's Metacham, and unfortunately, I have already taken some pretty solid damage from that Body Slam, but let's see what Aerial Ace Pidgeot can do. And as you can see, a lot of people love calling Feather Dances, and Aerial Ace does a significant amount of damage compared to a Feather Dance. And now, I can just look to farm down. That's the nice thing here. This is a fully XL Metacham. We land one Aerial Ace, we can fully farm down. I leave with two Aerial Aces loaded for the Lickitung, and I have a move on the Swampert. So I can Aerial Ace, my opponent does a very nice job of calling the bait, but I can just get to two more Aerial Aces here. They're going to have to burn shield number 1 and shield number 2, and then from here, I have that energy I saved on Swampert much earlier in the game. We can go for the combo play into the Swampert, and under a barrage of charge moves, Lickitung gets KO'd. We move into the next match, leading Swampert into Metacham. Fairly neutral matchup across the board. Ideally though, I'm going to want to save switch out of here into the Shadow Drapion. Metacham can stay in here if they want to, but unless they're running Dynamic Punch, they're going to have to go down a shield if they stay in this matchup. Crunch will connect, I don't get a debuff, and this is enough for a dynamic punch, but I'm going to let this go. Most are not running dynamic punch. It is just going to be the ice punch, and then they send in the lantern. You love to see it. A lot of people love sending in that lantern into that neutral matchup, and that works out great for me. So that's all I really need, is just try and bait out the lantern with that very neutral Shadow Drapion safe switch, and then let Pidgeot do what Pidgeot does best in the back. I'm farming up with the Swampert. Swampert will be hit with another Surf. Surf is going to get the Swampert extremely low. Swampert is now at the back-to-back Hydro Cannons here. Honestly, I probably could have thrown sooner, but I was just trying to double up. My opponent sends in the Metacham. I'm firing off the Hydro Cannon here. Let's see, are they willing to commit a shield? Yes, they are. In comes the Pidgeot. Pidgeot is going to be shielding up the Ice Punch here, as Ice Punch, of course, is super effective damage, even if it isn't the strongest move ever. In the back, it's a Gligar, and this is a matchup that Pidgeot with Aerial Ace does win in all even shielding scenarios, going straight Aerial Ace. Pidgeot, of course, Wing Attack, Aerial Ace, Gligar, Wing Attack, Aerial Ace, but Pidgeot wins CMP, so that's why Pidgeot is able to win all even shielding scenarios. I'm farming up, and I'm firing off the Aerial Ace on the CMP tie. Aerial Ace is going to be shielded by my opponent, and now all shields are down. My opponent is at a bit of an awkward health range here, and I would love to exit this matchup with energy, so instead of going for the CMP tie, this time I'm going to go for the catch, because I want to try and exit with energy to threaten the Metacham. And now, due to the catch, I can make the back-to-back Aerial Aces here. Aerial Ace number 1 gets the KO, and we get Aerial Ace number 2 for the Metacham. Again, dramatically faster charge moves going Aerial Ace over Feather Dance, and we get the win. We see a very tough lead in the next match, Swampert into Cresselia. I'm going to save switch into Shadow Drapion, and my opponent is going to respond with Diggersby. Now this is definitely not ideal here, as Diggersby is extremely bulky. I do have Aqua Tail, so I can hit the Diggersby for super effective damage, but Diggersby is monstrously tanky, and with its new charge move of Scorching Sands, it's a lot spammier compared to what it used to have in Earthquake. Aqua Tail is going to connect onto the Diggersby. I continue to farm, and that's going to be a CMP tie here. Firing off the Aqua Tail, Diggersby is going to commit the shield. They really liked the alignment that they had, so they're going to keep it. I'm going to be shielding up here, and my play is to try and overfarm and look for a catch back onto the Swampert, and I get the catch. So I save the energy on the Drapion, and I'm already getting one shot by a Grass Knot from the Cresselia, so catching a move onto Swampert is honestly not even a bad thing for me whatsoever, because my health was already getting destroyed. So this is basically just making my opponent use their energy slightly inefficiently. My opponent is overfarming quite a lot with the Cresselia, allowing me to make it to another Hydro Cannon. That's going to get them very low, and they're firing off the Grass Knot here. Grass Knot, of course, massive overkill. That would KO a bunch of Swampers at that health range, and I do have a bunch of energy on my Drapion here, so I'm going to send in the Drapion and go for the Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail, it's going to be real close here. Cresselia able to hang on with a sliver of HP, but I get the fast move farm down. They still have the Diggersby, but the Diggersby doesn't have energy. I'm farming up in the back. Oh my goodness, it's a lickitung. I fire off the Crunch just to get some chip damage, and now I can send in the Pidgeot. Pidgeot, of course, does very well into the Lickitung, but since I had enough energy, I figured it was probably going to be worth it to throw one of the two moves that I had banked, and I can save the other one for potentially KOing the Diggersby in the endgame. They're firing off the Body Slam with the Lickitung. I continue to farm with the Pidgeot. They're going for Body Slam number 2 here. Body Slam is going to connect into the Pidgeot, looking to farm up to the back-to-back Aerial Aces, and looking to put some pressure here onto the Lickitung. Aerial Ace will KO. In comes the Diggersby, and I can fire off this Aerial Ace to burn the shield, and I have the Aqua Tail loaded on the Drapion. So I can just farm up, force them to throw energy as I would make the Aerial Ace. They're forced to fire off their charge move. It's the double resisted Scorching Sands, and the energy that we saved from earlier on the Drapion comes in clutch. So despite a terrible lead and swap, we get the win. Alright, moving into the next match, we see Swampert into another Metacham. We've seen this lead before. Just save switch into the Shadow Drapion. Opponent gonna send in Steelix, and again, another reason why having Aqua Tail on the Shadow Drapion save switch just feels like a must at the moment. I'm able to connect with the Aqua Tail. They're firing off their Breaking Swipe, and Breaking Swipe is fine. I'm totally okay with letting that go. Steelix is an absolute wall to Pidgeot, so I'm very, very happy to see it here. I'm firing off another Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail will connect, and I make it to a third. Now, this one should be forcing a shield from my opponent if they want to keep switch, and they do. Steelix looking for the farm down. I make it to the last second Aqua Tail, as in a rare moment, new mechanic actually works. The charge move takes priority over the Dragon Tail KOing me, and I'm able to force both shields. Steelix is going to fire off the Breaking Swipe. They have back-to-back moves here, and they're just looking to continue to debuff, and more debuff. I'm farming up with the Swampert, going to fire off the Hydro Cannon. This is double debuff, but they're very low, so this will easily get the KO. And then I just have to trust in Pidgeot. In the end game, there's a Magnezone in the back. You've got to be kidding me. I have 2 shields, but what are 2 shields going to get me here? All my moves on Pidgeot are double resisted. Oh my goodness, you could not have picked a worse Pokemon to see in the back here. Magnezone, oh my, this is just absolutely awful. I go for the Brave Bird, that just does nothing, and I resign the match. Moving into the next match, looking for a bit of redemption, this time leading Swampert into Defense Deoxys. I'm actually going to stay in the Deoxys matchup to start with. They're going to be firing off the Psycho Boost. That's fine by me. I can very comfortably let this through. Psycho Boost will connect. Opponent is going to safe switch into the Lickitung. People are so confident in how safe the Lickitung safe switch is. But that's why having a Pokemon like Pidgeot is so nice, because you can just consistently win this matchup and you don't even have to try and go for a risky Brave Bird. Just straight Aerial Ace, as you're going to see, and we're just able to win switch in every even shielding situation. Because of course, it's going to take 12 turns per Body Slam, and it's only 10 turns to the Aerial Ace, and now I can farm up to the back-to-back moves here. I'm firing off the Aerial Ace. Aerial Ace will be no-shielded by the Lickitung, and I'm going for Aerial Ace number 3 here. Aerial Ace is going to get the KO of the Lickitung. Back in comes the Deoxys. I decide to aggressively pivot into the Drapion. I didn't really want to give the Deoxys a bunch of farm, so Drapion pretty neutral into just about everything, and I'm able to land the Crunch. That does so much damage, so I decide, you know what, let's shield up here. In the back, my opponent has a Charmer. They have Charm, Alola, Ninetales. Here I'm going for potential debuff with the Crunch. Opponent will commit the shield. Unfortunately, no debuff for me, but I get new mechanic. This is actually surprising. It almost never works for me, and I got it twice in that day's battles. Obviously, some battles were done at midnight, and these battles were done at a far more reasonable time, but I'm able to make the back-to-back Hydras here. Wait a turn just so I see the Charm start. Hydro Cannon will get the KO. In comes the Deoxys, and they resign the match. We move into the next match, leading Swampert into another Deoxys, okay? Same leads as last game. Same game plan as before. I'm going to stay in this matchup to start with, tank the move, and see what they want to do from here. Is it going to be another Lickitung? They go for the Psycho Boost. It's a Dugong, and honestly, Dugong's a bit of a problem. I'm farming up past the Earthquake. I'm baiting with the Hydro Cannon here. Opponent calls the bait, and I'm in a truly terrible spot. I try and go for the CMP tie. They end up going for the extra there. Okay. The good thing is that I was able to land the Earthquake there, but Icy Wind users love shield in the first move, so I felt pretty safe in that bait. That was kind of a crazy call by my opponent, fair play to them. So I'm forced to go down a shield here. I fire off the Aqua Tail, and that will get the KO. Back in comes Deoxys. I'm farming up with the Shadow Drapion, and Drapion is going to fire off the Crunch. Crunch does quite a lot of damage here. That's going to connect into the Deoxys, and I end up going for the Aqua Tail on the CMP tie. Let's see how good their counting is, and my opponent does commit the shield. And here, I decide, you know what? I'm going to trust. I'm going to trust in Pidgeot to win this game, and that trust, as you're going to see here shortly, is immediately not worth it, because Deoxys, Dugong, what's the third? It's Alolan Sandslash. I send in the Swampert. Swampert is much too low, and I resign the match. Hopping into the final match, leading Swampert into yet again another Metacham. That time I ended up accidentally throwing a Mudshot before switching. Honestly, I like just switching out right away, but the Shadow Drapion is able to bait out the Steelix, which is what I need the Drapion to do. And with Aqua Tail, honestly, Aqua Tail feels like it's an absolute necessity if you're safe switching Shadow Drapion in this meta, just because there's a lot of stuff that can switch in, a lot of ground types, and Aqua Tail is just incredibly clutch. I'm firing off another Aqua Tail here. Steelix is going to actually give up switch, and in the back they have Shadow Venusaur. So honestly, it would have been better for me had they not given up switch, because now they have an energy advantage on that Venusaur, but still, hopefully, I should be in a good spot here. I'm firing off the Aerial Ace. I did build up to the Brave Bird. Opponent is going to respect it, and now I can send in the Swampert as they fire off their charge move. I basically just need to throw away the Swampert, and then Pidgeot will be able to close out this game. I'm farming up with the Swampert. Swampert, unfortunately, I'm at the back-to-back Hydro Cannons here, but the counter is going to KO, so I'm not going to get both moves. And here, I recognize a Shadow Sludge Bomb will do more than a Psychic, so I am going to let that through. And the Venusaur, Vine Whips are just not going to be able to do a lot of damage. And again, the consistency and cheapness of Aerial Ace is so nice on Pidgeot, as from that health range, Feather Dance does not KO, but an Aerial Ace absolutely does. All in all, I think that Aerial Ace on Pidgeot does elevate Pidgeot a bit in the Open Great League. I would say it's not a top tier flyer by any means. I would say Gligar and Mandibuzz, pretty clearly the best two flyers in the Open Great League meta, but if you're not wanting to run those, I feel like this is a pretty solid option as well. Of course, needing that Legacy Wing Attack as the fast move is a bit unfortunate, but Pidgeot with Aerial Ace, that consistency and that speed, just guaranteed 10 turns to a charge move every single time, and then you have the finishing move of Brave Bird, in my opinion, does improve Pidgeot quite a bit. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.